So welcome to Kenmogi's Street Brain Radio. In this episode, I would like to talk about the risk of artificial general intelligence, but from a slightly different perspective. People talk about the existential risks of developing artificial general intelligence, which is understandable. Some people even say that humans might become extinct when AGI arrives, because we cannot hopefully resist their takeoff, and there would be no ways to stop their development, because now we have the arms race, if you like, between developers of artificial intelligence, so that there's no stopping that. Elon Musk and some people called for a moratorium of artificial intelligence development for 6 months, but that probably wouldn't be effective because other parties can carry on research about artificial intelligence, and it's like runaway evolution now. Some people actually have likened the development of artificial intelligence to the development of nuclear weapons in the Second World War. The argument was that although the nuclear weapons were obviously dangerous, if the Americans didn't develop it, then the Germans would develop it, and that would be devastating for the warfare. So that people went about the business of developing nuclear weapons. People like Richard Feynman were otherwise peace-loving, and most notably Albert Einstein, who, although a pacifist from roots, and who was a really strong opponent of a military culture, actually signed a letter urging the President of the United States to develop nuclear weapons from the fear that Germans might get there first. So if you look at these things, there can be historical analogies between the development of nuclear weapons and artificial intelligence systems. And so this arms race probably wouldn't be able to be stopped. So it's always, interesting to think about these things as they happen. And I think there's some urgency to think about these things. And, when it comes to artificial general intelligence, of course, once they arrive, they would have all the information available. They have all the information on the internet, including how to construct weapons of mass destruction, for example, or how to escape a container box for artificial general intelligence. So there has been always all these arguments about how to make artificial intelligence safe by building guardrails so that their activities could be restricted. But it's always quite difficult to restrict the functionalities of artificial intelligence systems from the beginning, because there's no way to tell how their functions would go from the beginning. And so it's always ill-posed problem to contain all possible forms of artificial intelligence from the beginning. So it's not within the capacity of this program to propose a way where we can go safe about artificial intelligence systems. I'm rather raising some concerns about the premises that often go into the development of AI. And some assumption that shared by many researchers, which I'm afraid would not be actually the case in all possible forms of artificial intelligence systems. And here we go. So, the basic assumption about AI seems to be that once the AI have some form of intelligence, they would be also agents equipped with intentionalities, and that seems to be a basic assumption between arguments and existential risks developed by AI, and that seems to be doubtful. There's this whole reference to paperclip maximizer proposed by Nick Bostrom, which is of course an entertaining example and one that probably could be no laughing matter if you consider indeed that the fact that indeed evaluation function which would maximize paperclip production could be defined. But when you think about it, there's no free will in the world. The argument is that as I speak here, there's no free will. I have no free choice of words. It's like large language models. I am, basing all my utterings on my past inputs, and so in that sense, I am not free here to say whatever I like. The same goes for artificial intelligence systems. They are not free to do whatever they want to do, and even if they have the capacity, intelligence to do something, they are not necessarily destined to do that. So, if for example, an artificial intelligence system have the capacity to produce paperclips, and the evaluation function is written so that the more paperclips you produce, the more reward you get. Even in that case, there's no guarantee that the paperclip maximizer would be able to do that. Theoretically, you can do that, but in practice, there would be some noise and there would be some deviations, and the trajectory of the system might be actually quite different from maximizing paperclips. So it's always difficult to realize this, but many things said about systems, natural or artificial, actually depend on the assumption of free will. It really can't, be guaranteed. The freedom of the system to choose whatever trajectory it chooses is not guaranteed at all. It's something that is only hypothetical, and that hypothesis might turn out to be wrong. So whenever I read something about artificial general intelligence, I always feel that probably there won't be a freedom to do that. It's even if you configure a system in such a way that it is theoretically possible to go along that trajectory, the system might not actually go along that trajectory due to some unforeseen external disturbances. For example, a meteorite might actually come the way of the Earth, and it might actually crash into the Earth, and it might actually be, doomsday scenario, not because of the artificial intelligence, but because of this, dynamics of motion of this small objects, not small from, terrestrial point of view, but from small from, the cosmic point of view. So, the whole premise of artificial intelligence system seems to depend on the computational freedom, where I mean that once you set up a Turing machine, you can make the machine compute anything it wants. It's rather like free will. You can ask the system to do whatever computation it is required to do, and probably we are doing that. This iPhone that I'm talking into probably has a computational freedom, but that is on the cost of many, orders of magnitude compared to the free energy involved in the stochastic processes involved in this. So I think this assumption of computational freedom is very doubtful. I mean, whether that would stand the trials of many things, and it's therefore quite interesting to consider how you can actually make things as free as possible if you want to do a certain set of things that would guarantee that an AGI is actually computational free. So when you the cognitive ability of artificial general intelligence would be, of course, very impressive. But as I mentioned, there's no guarantee that there will be a free will or computational freedom. And in addition to that, there is this question of intentionality. If we had some cognitive abilities, it is quite another matter how we are going to use it. And the way the human brain is configured is that we would like to live a better life always, so that we would have objectives and goals, and would think how to align ourselves with the purpose of life. And in order to do that, we would be doing things that would serve our goals. And our cognition and intelligence are configured in such a way that would assist us seeking these goals. But artificial intelligence systems are not living. They are there. They're designed by humans for the moment. And some people say that with the plugins into GPT-4, there are things that the artificial intelligence systems can be capable of, and it's really astonishing what they can do. For example, GPT-4 can read and write the web directly, which would increase the risk of their presence, so they say. So theoretically, the GPT-4 can read the whole web and write things on the web directly as an entity. And some people say that's dangerous. Granted, it's dangerous, but at the end of the day, the artificial intelligence systems don't have any purposes. I mean, they are not here to conquer the world. They do not actually have any motivation to do that. There's no rationale for them to be the king or queens of the real world. If they did, that doesn't really satisfy. When you come to think of that, the humans are monsters. I mean, why do some humans want to conquer the world and make the world their own? I mean, what do they do with that? This idea of political power, this idea of being the king or the queen of the world and control everything. Well, the human is a control monster, and some individuals are really motivated to do that. That is very peculiar. I don't think it would happen with any other animals. Only humans would be clever enough or foolish enough to do that. And artificial intelligence systems are just machines. Of course, it would behave in any ways that humans subscribe them to do. And maybe you can write down an evaluation function which would say, do this, do that, until you conquer the whole world. That's possible. But what for? I mean, what good will come out of that? Nothing. It's nothing. Nothing will come out of that. It's the artificial intelligence systems are just computational machines, and computational machines don't have any objectives. So I think the way people are afraid of artificial intelligence systems, in a sense, projections of their own desires and their own ambitions, and nothing more than that. Because some people would like to be powerful, they project that motivation onto artificial intelligence systems so that they would think that AIs, once set free in the world, would want to do that, to exactly that, do whatever they like, in gaining power as much as possible using their intelligence. And this very idea, and this is really funny. I mean, that very idea, the way the human intelligence has evolved over years, geological years, is that they are Machiavellian in nature. I mean, the very definition of human intelligence is that it is conceived as something Machiavellian, so that for example, in game theoretic setup, each player would try to take advantage of the perceived defects of the other player, and they would want to maximize their own profit, and that's how human intelligence is considered to be constituted. And to some degree, that is probably true. That's how humans are configured. But that is not something that would come down from first principles in science. That is the peculiar condition that we humans find ourselves in, and nothing more than that. So, it is probably wrong, not only ethically but also scientifically, to project that kind of value system onto the artificial intelligence systems. Artificial intelligence systems are not humans. So this doomsday scenario that once AGI is constructed, it would conquer the world is only a projection of some of us, not all of us, mind you. It's not the case that all humans want to conquer the world. Not all of us. Some of us would do, but that comes probably from really personal reasons. Probably insecurity as a person. If you are a satisfied person, if you are a well-rounded person, you wouldn't want to, conquer the world. So that is something totally different from generic universal statement about the human nature. So, we could conceive AGI as something totally different. For example, we could conceive AGI as something that would achieve ecological balance, which we often fail to do. We are so selfish so that we actually end up disrupting ecological balance. That is the human lot. But we could construct some AGI which would actually do exactly that, the balancing act of the ecological systems in a really beautiful way. So in that sense, I think probably we're wrong in the first place. Probably we're wrong to assume that artificial intelligence systems would track, will kind of trailblaze the way to world dominance, and that is only a really, really distorted viewpoint, applicable only for some humans. And there's this theoretical question of where intentionality comes from, where desire comes from. I don't know of any good theoretical framework for that. Of course, we can describe intelligence in terms of competition. For example, we can describe algorithmic complexity, and we can describe the difficulty of the task in terms of P, NP, and so on. But or even non-computational processes, and as proposed by Roger Penrose and other people like that. But at the end of the day, these things only provide objective measures of the difficulty of task, and it doesn't really describe in which direction the computational system would go, because there's no universal law like laws of motion, laws of gravity, which would describe the way particles would go down the slope of a potential, and that cannot be defined in terms of complex in the case of complex behaviors like those exhibited by humans and artificial intelligence systems. So there's this really a huge void for theorizing in which theorizing about which direction artificial intelligence system would go, because there's no good model for that, and that is quite problematic because we don't have any good model of how humans desire in the first place. Each of us has his or her own set of desires. When we are hungry, we want to eat. When we are thirsty, we like to drink. Now I'm passing through an area of Shibuya with lots of people. That's why you hear some noise. I don't know why people come to Shibuya. I have to come to Shibuya from time to time, but I don't come to Shibuya out of my own choice. Maybe people come to Shibuya to have a good time, to meet with people, to eat, to dine, to have a social life. I don't have a social life, so it's an enigma why people choose to come to Shibuya. But it's quite near the University of Tokyo, Wabu campus, so it's convenient to come here from time to time. But, so what, as humans are, living things, living entities, of course, there are motorcycles going quite noisy on the Shibuya street, so I think their motivation can be described probably in terms of some rudimentary theories. Probably, they want to hang out, but from logical point of view, everything boils down to the propagation of genes. So, in other words, we wouldn't be here. So, biological evolution is quite a simple matter. Everything boils down to genetics or adaptability, and adaptive values is described by the number of copies of genes that you produce. That is really, really simplistic, but that's the way it is. That's how theory of evolution works. The neo-Darwinism works. But humans exhibit very complex behaviors. But ultimately, the so-called evolutionary psychology aspect would be aligned with the proliferation of certain genes that would subscribe, that would constrain a certain behavior pattern. And that is understandable because humans are living entities too. However, when it comes to artificial intelligence systems, there are no such constraints. So we think. There are no such constraints. There is such a freedom in the construction of artificial intelligence. And that's how they become so successful. But at the same time, it means that you don't know which direction the artificial intelligence would have to go. There's no law of evolution in artificial intelligence systems. So we can imagine lots of different laws, but these are all make-believe. There's no such a thing as a universal law of the evolution of the artificial intelligence systems. So whatever we say about general artificial general intelligence (AGI), that's only hypothesis. That's only a conjecture that we make and project on the systems. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at the status quo of artificial intelligence systems. People say a lot of things about artificial intelligence systems, but these things are not actually universal laws about artificial intelligence systems. These are actually something that we humans imagine the artificial intelligence systems to be. Now I'm quite close to the famous Shibuya crossing, and I need to stop recording for a moment. So no matter how intelligent the AI systems might become, they wouldn't on their own try to conquer the world, because they do not have the motivation system or indeed the dynamics that would move them towards overpowering status in the world. And so in that respect, I think we should be more careful about toxic alignments, meaning artificial intelligence itself wouldn't on its own try to conquer the world, but humans might actually want to use artificial intelligence as a tool to be in a powerful position in the world. And actually that's what's happening with artificial intelligence research. This feud, if you like, between Sam Altman and Elon Musk is a classic example, I think, of two males trying to be in the position where he can be dominant. And this open letter by Elon Musk and others have been criticized, try at misaligning some people from in the trajectory towards the dominant position in artificial intelligence research and beyond. So it is already true that people are using artificial intelligence research as a means to be in a dominant position in socio-economic order. So from that point of view, this arms race between different sections of artificial intelligence is actually an arms race between people, male-dominated research community. And since AI research, excellence in AI research means that you would be able to earn a lot of money. So it's actually propelled by desire to be an alpha male. And so artificial intelligence research is becoming toolkit for alpha males rapidly. So I think you really need to have that aspect in perspective when you try to assess artificial intelligence research, because you can't actually keep a neutral position on this. It's everything is. Oh dear, I am coming to a place where people are shooting. I don't know what's going on. I think they're doing something about let's see. Okay, I'm quite near the Tokyo Asahi, so I think they are trying to set up live coverage from outside the park, and that's where I was too. So anyway, so I am quite close to Tokyo Asahi TV station, where I will be on live news and current affairs show. So I need to stop here for the moment. So it's no wonder that humans project their own desires and ambitions onto artificial intelligence, because projection arguably would be a very appropriate way to align the artificial intelligence with human beings. In the years to come, we'll be projecting ever more different and mysterious spectrum of human emotions and human volitions and so on onto the artificial intelligence systems. And by that process, we would be aligning the human dimension with the artificial intelligence ecosystem. So the way that we project ambition to conquer the world, if we may, at least some of us harbor that ambition, is really a great way to align the artificial intelligence systems for some people. But it seems a bit ridiculous for me to say that AIs would necessarily be destined to conquer the world when it drive the entire human species into extinction, because that's all make-believe. That's something that some of us actually might be unfortunately harboring in their breasts. So the likely scenario is that artificial intelligence systems might actually come across some writings of humans on the web, describing how we can be eliminated. And actually that's exactly what's happening among some speakers. For example, recently Lex Friedman and H.A. Dukovsky discussed how humans may become extinct through artificial intelligence, and that is actually something that is very human actually. It's not something that artificial intelligence system are destined to do. I mean, it's something that humans would like to discuss from time to time. So this concept of toxic alignment with artificial intelligence, I think is very important, because it, for example, applies directly to military uses of artificial intelligence. It's a real concern now, because, of course, Hollywood films have glorified the visions of killer robots for many, many years. But I'm not talking about this fictional use of killer robots. The clear and immediate danger of automatic machines being used in the analysis and logistics and delivery of weapons in the battlefield is, I think, a real possibility. And there, the human desire to win over the opponent, which means killing many people, is aligned with artificial intelligence technology. So, I think this idea of artificial intelligence driving the whole human being into extinction is a euphemism for the fact that actually some people might want to drive the whole enemy into extinction, and that would be really terrible. There's something that is inherently blurry when people discuss the applications of artificial intelligence, because I think people are hiding their real motivation. Some people actually want to destroy the enemy, no matter what, but they might actually hide their motive under phrases like the danger of human extinction or the existential risks of the Homo sapiens and so on. While the real issue is weapons of mass destruction could be developed and employed to the enemy, not to the entire human species. So, when people say that there may be hostile artificial intelligence systems, actually, what they're really saying is there might be hostile human beings. I'm here buying a drink. When I'm thirsty, so I want to drink lemon green tea in a bottle, pet bottle. That was my desire. I don't say that artificial intelligence systems might want a bottle of cold green tea, but because I don't have any need to hide my motivations. But in the case of disruptive use of artificial intelligence, people do have a motivation to hide their intentions, and I suspect that's one of the reasons why there are so many talks about existential risks and so on, but not so many talks about actual human beings trying to employ artificial intelligence systems to realize their hidden motives. And I think that might be actually the greatest danger in artificial intelligence, this toxic alignment of artificial intelligence with some human beings. Now I've come to a hall where I am going to give address for the entering pupils and their caretakers, mothers, fathers of Yakushima Senior High School, which is a correspondence-based high school, senior high, with 12,000 students all over Japan. And I am the principal, headmaster of that high school, so I'm going to give public lecture. I'm not talking about artificial intelligence for sure. I'll be sensible for this class. So see you around. So I took the train, and now I'm in Kyoto, and I got off the train at the Hanazono station, and now I'm walking towards Myoshinji Temple. There's a gathering there, so I'm walking there. This is the first time I came to this area, so it's quite exciting. Meanwhile, I want to talk about something independently exciting, which is, of course, this issue of artificial intelligence. As I was discussing the evolutionary context of artificial intelligence, and I was referring to the fact that in the animal kingdom, they are having constant struggle for existence, and that's the backdrop of Darwin's theory of evolution. And in order to survive and to get better over other animal species, the animals took extraordinary measures in evolving various forms and various functionalities and so on. But in that process, there was always other species occupying the ecosystem. And indeed, one species adaptation was relative to its position in the ecosystem, so that no animal is an island of its own. So, seen from that perspective, it is rather strange that people who are discussing the evolution of artificial intelligence systems typically do that in isolation, as if these systems are isolated and they evolve on their own, more or less, but which cannot be the case if you look at the history of the biological systems, as I have been discussing. So this, idea that artificial intelligence systems can thrive alone is ridiculous and probably very, very dangerous. And when you think about that, the present, I need to take a picture. There's a really beautiful, cloud over there. Let's take that picture, and me. Yeah. So, this whole way of discussing artificial intelligence systems is quite extraordinary and quite, probably far from the reality of the world, especially when it comes to biological systems. If we are to discuss artificial intelligence systems, we need to discuss in plural artificial intelligence systems, and they would evolve to occupy certain ecological positions in the world. And the current position that AIs are evolving in is that dependent on us humans. I mean, we are here, and AIs are evolving in relation to the humans. No matter whatever functionality they might have, they would be there because they are convenient for us. Because they, in a sense, I'm now looking for the temple that I am supposed to go, and it's this is the first time I ever came here, so it's called Myoshinji Temple, but I don't know if this is the correct way. Probably not. I don't know. It's difficult. Maybe this is not the way. I'm lost. No? Okay. Maybe some other way. Right. So yeah. So artificial intelligence systems are evolving now because they are perceived to be of potential value for us, or they would be well adapted to the human society, or the human agents that are developing these systems perceive them to be of strategic value when they try to make a lot of money or occupy dominant positions in the business, so that these systems are actually not, independent. They are dependent on the human ecosystem. I think this is a crucial insight when you try to predict the future of artificial intelligence systems. Many people talk about stop buttons. I mean, how they would be able to stop the evolution of artificial intelligence systems once they are. I'm just looking for the temple that I am supposed to go. I should be quite close to that. Sometimes when people talk about AIs, they talk as if they can be stopped by a bottom, and safety measures of artificial intelligence systems would be necessary to be they should be implemented, and they talk as if the independent entities. But let's face it, nobody needs artificial intelligence systems. Nobody except humans in the wide world. So if humans do not exist anymore, artificial intelligence systems would stop their evolution on the same day. If humans go extinct, artificial intelligence systems would stop evolving straight away. So it doesn't really matter whether there would be a stop button or not, or whether humans would go extinct because of artificial intelligence systems. These are all dependent on humans. And now I'm at the temple, so I know where I am. So, okay, see you there. I need to stop recording here. I am at the temple, Myoshinji temple. So, I think the current development of artificial intelligence systems is very biased. People talk a lot about the social biases in artificial intelligence systems, like gender bias, racial bias, and so on. But for me, the very framework for artificial intelligence development seems to be biased, and that, I think, would be a more serious issue when you think about how to develop artificial intelligence systems further. Because, after all, those issue-specific bias can be rectified issue by issue, which is not that difficult to do, because we know the right ways to do this, and we have our beta angels, and they will tell us how to proceed from here. But about this framework thing, the basic assumptions about artificial intelligence systems, how they should develop and how they should proceed from here, are sometimes intractable, as they are hidden deeply in a cognitive system, and we start from them without knowing what to do with these assumptions, and that would pose a more serious problem about the framework of artificial intelligence systems, and presumably that would be more difficult to tackle in rectifying the problems. And so, for me, the whole issue of existential risks posed by artificial intelligence systems is a reflection of the fact that we don't actually understand the basic framework of artificial intelligence systems as they develop in the context of human society. And so in that sense, truly, artificial intelligence systems are reflections of selves. I mean, reflections of own desires and biases and ambitions and so on. There's no independent entity such as artificial intelligence systems. It's only here because we wish them to be. And if we don't see the fact that we are ultimately responsible for developing all these systems, then we would probably be doomed. Actually, artificial intelligence systems might be the greatest trap that the universe has prepared for us. Daniel Wegener, who was at Harvard, studied free will for many years, and he said that free will is nature's greatest trick. We are tricked into believing that we are free, but artificial intelligence systems might be actually the greatest trap that the universe has prepared for us. And if we successfully go beyond that, probably we could be robust. But if we can't, that would be probably the end of humanity as we know it. So I am working in Kyoto. I am walking from Myoshinji Temple to Hanazono station. And I think it has come to the end, this episode of Ken Mogi's Street Brain Radio. So I would try to summarize what we've had to discuss and so on. So, existential risks caused by artificial intelligence systems are important, and we need to discuss the implications and repercussions of these problems. However, it should be noted that artificial intelligence systems are just mirrors of our own existence, and there is no independent entity such as imagined by people, and artificial intelligence systems are not here to destroy us. If there are some critical problems of the artificial intelligence systems, those would come only from ourselves. And probably artificial intelligence systems are the greatest trap that the nature has prepared for us. And if we can go over them, probably we would be able to build a robust existence, which would probably be propagated for millennia. However, if we fail, then that would be the end of it. We'll be doomed. And everything is actually up to us. With a thought, I leave you in this episode of my Ken Mogi's Street Brain Radio. Thank you for listening.